This is 1 in 44, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 44 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozinski, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And this morning I'm speaking with Jenny McLaughlan and Loz Young from Chewigem. Which you can find more information at chewigem.com. It's chewigem.com. And Jenny and Loz, I'm really excited to hear all about what you're doing and how you got started. But let's begin with some introductions. Jenny, let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny, and I suppose I would be the big chief here at Chewigem.
The big chief. All right. I think that's a great title. Awesome. We're going to get back to that in a few minutes and see what it is that you do and how you get started. But Loz, what is your role at Chewigem?
I am the community manager. I don't know if that really describes what I do, but once we go into it, I'll explain more.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for being on the show. On 1 in 44, we always are talking with with people who are in the field to some degree of autism, although I know your work expands well beyond the autism community, and you can learn a lot about sensory processing disorder or SPD by going to your website. And I'm sure you're going to talk about that today, but you certainly do see a lot of individuals who are on the autism spectrum who either have you'll give us the technical terms in a minute, but the strong desire to chew or obtain increased sensory input, or to avoid and to try to not have as much sensory input as maybe somebody else in the community. So we're going to learn about how you've created these products that are really designed to be helpful to people who are in need of things to chew on, and why. So Jenny, why don't we start off by just asking you to tell us the story of Chewigem, how you got started and why.
Okay. It was over 10 years ago. The product originally started out being aimed at teething babies. I'm sure you're all familiar with teething jewelry.
Yeah.
And Loz, her eldest child basically is autistic and was a major chewer, and she was seeking out a product to meet her needs. She was using some quite unattractive, curly telephone wire looking products that when you're at school just made you feel a bit different and all the rest of it. And so she was seeking it out. She found my brand. We got talking. She tried it on Jamie. It worked a treat. And so we started kind of working together from there and developed Chewigem, which basically grew. We then stepped aside from the baby side because we felt that this was way more valuable. There was so much more reward in it. Loz will tell you all this as well, but she went on to get an adult diagnosis of autism herself, and her son is also autistic. From that, maybe about 5 or 6 years in, we started recognizing that we were helping people who had a need to chew. But many of those people, and a lot of them would be autistic, but a lot of those people also had other sensory issues. You know, it usually comes with lots of kind of add-ons, if you like. And we became kind of experts in the senses and started learning all about it. And so basically then developed Sensuli, which launched last year, which was mainly because we had become, through using local occupational therapists and other people, we'd become a place where people could come for anything, you know, not just the chewing side, but for all 8 of the senses. 3 are of the lesser known ones. And we wanted to build a place there where they could get the support, the community and the products that would help seekers and avoiders of the whole range of sensory challenges. And that's what Sensuli is. And we felt that Chewigem is a good, strong brand. It's a bit like you'll hear people say, you need to get a Chewigem, and then they go and buy one, and it's not actually a Chewigem. It's just another brand of chewable products. So I feel like we are the Hoover of chewable.
I was going to say, that's when you know your brand is strong, is when people refer to it as a, and they're not always right, but that's the gold standard, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, Chewigem is now used interchangeably like jewelry is, but we are the one and only Chewigem. We put a lot of time and effort into our development of our product products. We kind of listen to our community in terms of where we've got gaps, where there isn't strength or there isn't flexibility or there isn't texture, and then we develop along those areas to get them. But if we just stuck with Chewigem, people wouldn't ever find all the other wonderful things we did. So we wanted another brand that basically encompassed more of what we do, which Sensuli is a play on the 8 senses, because the double O in the middle is the number 8 on the side, and it's about senses and all of that kind of stuff. So chewigem.com, you can't buy from chewigem.com. That is just the brand site, which tells you about the products. It's sensuli.com, where we sell the brand Chewigem along with a whole range of other sensory products that help people.
That's great. And what year did you say this started?
2010.
Okay, so you're about 12 years in. That's great. It's great to hear that it's grown. I can't tell you the number of times that I've interviewed people on this podcast who were doing really interesting, innovative things, creating products, employment opportunities, just any number of new initiatives that impact people on the autism spectrum. And so often it starts as one thing that's sort of very, very specific. And then people start to realize that it has implications, really positive implications for people on the spectrum. And then often also has positive implications for the even broader community. So, this is sort of following that pattern. I love that. I did raise 2 children, 2 babies, so I know the teething thing very well. I went through all the frozen bagels and all the things. Everybody has something that they've used. I would have loved to have a Chewigem at that time. So great idea. Loz, I have a question for you just in terms of your role in the startup of this. At Anderson Center for Autism, where I work, I certainly see a number of our students and adults who seek out Chewy, we call them Chewy toys. That's sort of, which is not appropriate. Sort of refer to that as dog toys too. But items to chew, sensory items. I remember there being things that looked like long straws or necklaces that were often provided to students. Just as a parent, and when you first connected with Jenny, can you talk about what was your frustration level at this point? Was it really hard for your daughter? Was it hard for you not having something that really felt like the right thing for her to have that would help her feel better and satisfy the chewing desire? Yeah, absolutely.
Jamie chewed a lot of clothes, so school uniforms were getting ruined. It was costing a lot of money. And it was a speech and language therapist that said you need to find some jewellery. So I'd never heard of it before.
Jewellery.
Started looking for it. And even back then, the internet isn't what it is now.
Right.
So I did find some stuff in Canada that I got sent over. It took 6 weeks to arrive. It was really expensive. And kids were laughing at school because it looked odd. So I just needed something that Jamie could go to school and blend in, but still self-regulate without standing out. So when I saw Jenny's stuff, one of the first products, it was like a little lightning bolt. And Jamie at the time was into Harry Potter.
Oh, so great.
It was perfect. So we got that. And Jamie was like really proud that she had this necklace with the Harry Potter lightning bolt on. And school within 24 hours literally said, that is amazing. That has changed it in 24 hours. She's calm. She's listening.
That's great. That's great. And I would think that maybe even some of the other kids at that time who were into Harry Potter might have thought that necklace was pretty cool and maybe wanted one for themselves. So I think that you raise a really interesting and important point, just that would probably resonate with a lot of our listeners, many of whom are parents of children really at a range of ages who might be just getting a diagnosis or might just be putting together some of the connections between autism and sensory processing and a desire or a need to chew, which is both sort of the stigma that so many kids can face, especially in a school setting where, so many kids, the focus, especially at certain ages, is all about wanting to sort of blend in, at least for a little while, catch a break a little bit. And also another thing that you mentioned, which is you were sort of running out of ideas of things to give her that would satisfy that need, chewing through clothing, destroying items, things like that. So I appreciate you sharing that personal part of your experience. Can you, Loz, also tell us about, was it a very natural fit for you to start talking with Jenny and partnering up with her around the development of the business, or was that completely new to you?
It was completely new. I've got in my head, I see a lot of people always complain, where I try and flip that around. So if something really good happens, I like to tell people about the good things. So when this really worked for us, the first thing I wanted to do was tell Jenny she had a fantastic product. So yep. I emailed Jenny, sent some pictures of Jamie with the product. And I was like, this is amazing. So that's kind of where it started.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
At that point, if I can butt in, at that point, I wasn't in that world at all. And this to me was, it made no sense. Why am I getting this photo of this 7-year-old using my baby product? It just made no sense. But then when I heard, the impact it had, it just struck such a chord. And then since then, as many people who enter this world, there are now a lot of knowledge and connections and in my own family, and even in myself, where I can see sensory processing disorder or ADHD or all those other things. So so it was really quite an eye-opener for me, because I just wasn't in that world at all, and it was quite emotive, and I really wanted to be part of that.
That's fantastic. I love that part of your story and your journey together. That's I think, Loz, that just reinforces something that I love the opportunity to talk about on the show whenever I can, which is doing the right thing. And when there's an opportunity to send someone a kind message, or let somebody know that anything has had a positive impact on you or your life or a loved one, it's a good thing to do. You never know. It might not always lead to a business partnership and this kind of development, but it's certainly, it's one of those things where you did that not knowing what the reaction might be, not even knowing who Jenny was. And obviously, I think many, many, many people now are very thrilled that you did. I'm going to put this out there as a teaser for when we come right back, because we're at our break. But I just want to make sure that when we come back, we start talking about another thing that I saw on your site, which is a reminder that just like autism, people with sensory processing disorders don't grow out of them. And so while it's easy to think about a a teething toy or a sensory item for a baby who's teething, or even a young child, now that more and more people are sort of using these products, it's a different story altogether when you start looking at and recognizing adults in the workplace or really anywhere needing to satisfy that need as well. And I'd like to jump into that a little bit and see what you guys have to say about that. This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
And now 1 in 44 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking with Jenny McLaughlan and Loz Young from Chewigem and Sensooli.com. You can go to both of those sites. Sensooli is SENSOOLI.com, and Chewigem is CHEWIGEM.com. And we've been talking about the Chewigem products. Your story is getting started in this business, the transition from baby products to a broad array of products that can help really still work with babies, but also help children and adults who are facing sensory processing needs, and also people on the autism spectrum. You had mentioned, Jenny, before, ADHD, and probably a host of folks who just for whatever reason have a desire and a strong need to chew, and it helps them self-regulate, maybe calm, focus. I feel like it's becoming the next fidget toy, so to speak. So when we stopped before the break, I had mentioned adults. Mm-hmm. And I noticed on your chewigem.com website, there's a video that is very much focused, at least visually, on adults using these items. So can you talk about that level or that step in your business? And were you reaching out at this point to OTs, to people who were working with adults who were seeking products like this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially, because Loz and I hooked up, it was more aimed at parents. with children. However, as the years went on, we attracted all sorts. And because it was originally designed for adults, a lot of the products were designed for mums and dads. They were naturally older looking and quite stylish. And so we attracted adults naturally. But then we kind of got a great community around us of people that basically were adults, young adults, who wanted things that would fit in at work, fit in at kind of higher up the school, and Loz herself uses the products, etc. So that then really made us realize a lot of our products, some of them could look quite young. So we started working on making more that would be more mature, I suppose, more discreet for the adult market as well.
And how has that arm of the business gone so far? Are you seeing a tremendous market for it?
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, we have a. Well, you tell them about the VICs because they're mostly adults, aren't they?
I was going to talk about the original Chew Crew.
Yeah,
because originally we had some young teens that were Chewigem users, and they went into YouTube and Instagram, and they became young influencers, and they're now in their 20s. And so people have followed their channels right through. And so adults have seen them, children have seen them, and our audience has just grown and grown through this particular group of young adult who I would call, really good friends now, really good friends with all of them. They're just great. But yeah, they started out as elder teens, and then obviously, like I say, now they're in their 20s. And because they had such a following on YouTube, people would see them using the products and realize, do you know what? They're not just for kids. They're not just for babies. And I want one. And so, I think probably now we get more adults than anything come to us.
Really? And that's fantastic. And I love that your business model is one that is sought after. People would love it. It seems the way you're telling it anyway, that it developed very organically, which is fantastic. But I work in the field of marketing and communications and fundraising and branding. And so the idea that you had a natural group of people who just started their own YouTube channels and started that social media following is really that's wonderful to hear, and also tells me something. And I would think our listeners are probably noticing this too, that your product is one that that the folks that use them are proud to talk about and want other people to benefit from, as opposed to so often. And I think definitely historically, products that were specifically designed to support individuals with a variety of special needs often looked very much like something that was designed to support somebody with a special need, thereby making that person stand out visually even more so. So recently I've seen this trend with you and another company that I was familiar with that's designing weighted stuffed animals that almost look like a real pet. And they're not going to be sold in toy stores, and they're not going to be sort of focused on young children in an effort to have adults and young adults feel more comfortable using them. And I think that's a great thing to see in the field. It's one of the things that families often have told us is very stigmatizing for them and makes them feel more isolated. So it's great to see that you're doing that.
The other thing I would add to that we are, if I can sing my own whatever it is, praises or whatever.
You should always sing your own praises on this show. That's what it's all about.
But this is the thing I'm probably most proud of out of the whole thing, is that yes, we're a business. Yes, we're here to make money, but actually we go above and beyond. And by that I mean with over 10 years experience of helping chewers, I challenge you to find anyone on the planet that knows more about chewing than us. Yeah. So we know that we can look at a product, maybe it's a competitor's product and they've destroyed it, and we can look at that and we can understand why that product has been destroyed, and with a few questions, what product might be better for them. So much so that we have a product guarantee that basically says we have a lifespan. I mean, nothing lasts forever. Obviously, by the nature of chewing, it's going to destroy eventually. And it's about hitting the sweet spot of trying to get that to last as long as possible while meeting that person's needs. Mm-hmm. So we have a product guarantee that is basically, if you break it before the average lifespan, we'll replace it for you for free with a better product, an alternative that because we know if we get it right, we've got a customer for forever. And not only that, we've really helped those people, because the worst thing we hear, and we see it sometimes on anonymous kind of Facebook posts where we put up an ad or something and someone goes, tried these, they break, they don't work. And when we see that, we're like, oh my God, just talk to us, because if you talk to us, we'll find you the right product. And if we can't find you the right product and it is a competitor's product, we'll tell you, because we
genuinely get the real thing.
Yeah, we genuinely want people to be helped.
Yes, and that comes through loud and clear. And I'll just remind people to go to either the Sensooli site, sensooli.com, or Chewigem, chewigem.com. And Chewigem is not where you can order the products, but you can learn a lot about them. And I was on that site earlier today. Not only is there a video on there that helps sort of show some great imagery and explanation as to why chewing is such a sought after sensory input for so many people, but also I loved your visual that helped map out, like, do you do this? No, yes. And it kind of gives you that arrow of exactly which 3 products might be perfect for you. So I love that. That's really simple and kind of personal. I can go on there myself and I can answer those questions just by myself. And I don't have to tell somebody that I'm a mouther or a sucker, and I can just answer those questions privately. But then I also saw that in your story, you go into great detail about the types of questions and the types of information that you would talk with an individual person about, or maybe a parent about, or a caregiver about, prior to that person making their purchase. And I was really impressed with your focus on the fact that with that information, you really feel that you can point somebody directly to the perfect product for them. Yeah. That's unusual, because often it's just buy this pack of 50 of these, and you'll go through them in however long it takes you to go through them. And then, of course, buy more. And as Loz was saying before, especially these days with the pandemic, that could take 6 months for you to get your next delivery. That's not helpful. Yeah. So do you have any stories, either of you? Do you have like just an anecdote that you'd like to share, something that really stands out for you that was a moment where you felt like, man, we're really, we're doing something great here?
I've actually had one today.
Great.
You were talking about reaching adults. Today, I've had 2 emails, one from a 65-year-old lady and one from a 70-year-old lady. The 70-year-old lady made my day so much. I actually went and told my husband that somebody today has just made me feel really good, because just by communicating with her, she's expressed how I've helped her, how she now understands herself after 70 years. And she's going to go on and explore all of the things that I've given her links to things, and I've told her things to try, books to read. And she's really excited to go on to the next step of her journey. And at 70 years old, that it gave me goosebumps. I was thinking, that's just so lovely.
That's the best. Well, now you made my day too. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We focus so frequently on young children, and young children are absolutely worth every bit of attention and focus and research and advancement that we can do as a society to help them feel supported and appreciated and accepted, and to give them supports that they need, but not at the expense of thinking that people who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s are not still looking for something that's going to enhance and optimize the quality of their life. So I love that. I love that story, Loz. Thank you. We are out of time. I can just give you a chance, Jenny, maybe to sum up and with any other quick information you want to share about what's coming next, or what you'd like people to do.
Yeah, okay. So I think there's 2 things. What's coming next is, I don't know what it's like over the pond in America and Canada, but certainly in the UK, people looking for help. It's a bit of a postcode lottery as to what you get, and the standard of therapy is very varied. Our next big mission is to change that. We want to be a place that people can come to and get referred on to a certain standard of vetted professionals to get the help that they need as a part of the package that we offer. That will be a UK thing initially, and then hopefully go worldwide. Secondly, sadly, due to COVID, Brexit, all the rest of it, we did have an operation in America, but we had to close it down over the COVID period. Okay. So to get a Chewigem in America, you would have to go to Amazon at the moment, where because of the pandemic, there are storage restrictions. So there's not a lot of variety there. The next option is we do have Chewigem in Canada, which is chewigem.ca, and all our products are on there. But we do have a wide range of trade stockists across America. So if someone is looking for a product and the ship, we don't really choose to ship from the UK to America because we like to give a good service, and the delays and the import tax and all the rest of it just make it unsatisfying and expensive. But if someone messages us and tells us where they are, we'll try and find someone local to you where you can get what you need.
Great. Well, I'll certainly pass this along to our OT departments here at Anderson. I think they'd be very interested in just knowing that you're out there and keeping track for maybe when things come back a little bit more free flowing after this pandemic is finally over. But in the meantime,
I say is we will be back in America. We will be back, as Arnie says. Yeah,
I trust that.
If you've got people out there that are using other chews, and can only get other chews, there's still a lot of information on our website on how to use them, how to utilize them. So don't be put off that you might not own a Chewigem. Go on there and look at what, the videos, the blogs, there's loads on there.
Yeah, it looked like it. It was great. Lots of information. So I'm going to throw those websites out again. It's chewigem.com, chewigem.com, and also Sensooli, sensooli.com. And the one that Jenny just mentioned out of Canada, if you're interested, is chewigem.ca. But I definitely think, Loz, you just said it really well, that it's not just the product itself, which seems fantastic, but it's also your availability and accessibility and all the work that you've done to help people with this desire and need to chew, which I think is also helping to destigmatize the fact that there are so many people who have the need to chew, and let's make it more accessible for them to have something really cool and really well made and really safe to use. So thank you, Jenny and Loz and the whole team at Chewigem and Sensooli. I appreciate your time today, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 44, a weekly presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. Join us for another edition of the show at this time next weekend.